Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood ran from April 9th, 2009 to September 25th, 2011, an anime adaptation of the manga Fullmetal Alchemist. Across 64 episodes, we follow the two brothers, Edward and Alphonse Elric, on an alchemical journey to try and get their bodies back. The series is considered not only one of the best starting animes, but one of the best animes, period. And there is some sincere validity behind that sentiment. I'm Tom the Wizard Man, and this is the Fake Wizards review of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. If this review provides you any value at all, please like and subscribe as we're making many reviews every single week. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is the story of Edward and Alphonse Elric, two young teenage boys living in the militarized nation of Amestris. In this world, people are able to use the art of alchemy as a means to change or alter their surroundings. At a young age, Ed and Al learned the practice of alchemy, and after the passing of their mother, attempted to use it to bring her back from the dead. Performing the forbidden act of human transmutation, the ritual backfired, leading Ed to lose his left leg and Al his whole body. In a moment of desperation, Ed sacrifices his right arm to bind Al's soul to a suit of armor, stopping him from dying. The event left the boys traumatized and scarred as what was intended to be an innocent act turned into their biggest mistake. But despite that, the brothers continue forward, seeking a way to restore their own bodies. Over the course of several years, the brothers adapt to their situation. Ed receives prosthetic limbs from their childhood friend Winry and enlists to become a state alchemist. During their journey, they become entangled in a countrywide conspiracy that threatens not only their friends and family, but the whole world. Can Ed and Al get their bodies back and prevent the impending disasters that threaten them? Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is genuinely awesome. It is a dark fantasy adventure with extremely compelling characters and storytelling, starting straight off with Edward and Alphonse. The plight that the Elric brothers face is so well executed, as it really is a simple idea. And when I say simple, I don't mean it in a demeaning tone. Like, the premise is two kids try to bring their mom back from the dead and now have to rectify their mistake when you really boil it down. However, the way that it's layered and built upon and then tied back into the overarching plot is sincerely masterful. Throughout the series, there are numerous exchanges the brothers have about trying to get their bodies back, but there's one that specifically stood out to me. Alphonse being bound to the suit of armor means that he doesn't have a corporeal body. He can't feel temperature, he doesn't need to eat, he doesn't need to sleep. So during one of their exchanges, Al opens up that he needs to get his body back because he can't handle the nights. As again, he doesn't need to sleep. So during the nights, Al is stuck being in solitude as everyone else is asleep, and he can't handle being alone anymore. And part of this plays into how good the performance is too, because all of this is coming from a child. At this point in the story, Al is 14, but he lost his body when he was 10. So for the last 4 years, this kid has practically spent half of his time stuck being alone. It's emotionally compelling moments like that stick with you, and this series is filled with them. And those emotional moments that hit you right in the gut are carried because of how likable the cast is. The heroes are flawed individuals, either seeking some form of redemption or looking to help the people and world around them, juxtaposed to the villains who blatantly disregard human life as nothing more than a tool, a resource in which to grow more powerful from. The Elric brothers, being children, causes them to have a more naive and hopeful approach when dealing with people. Meanwhile, their companions are mainly adults, military personnel who are forced to commit atrocious acts against a neighboring country, which creates this wonderful dynamic of scarred individuals trying to help the Elric brothers face the harshness of reality while also being inspired by the Elric's hope and optimism, leading them to further try and better themselves. It's wonderful. The show is dark, with the threat of death being a very real possibility, making fight scenes and life-threatening encounters that much more tense. Throughout the 64 episodes, the show delves into deeper themes of loss, grief, forgiveness, redemption, and faith in an extremely satisfying and compelling way. The animation is refined and clean, holding up extremely well even 16 years later. The fights are flashy and the powers are cool, but something that has always stood out to me about this show in particular is its soundtrack. The accompanying orchestral pieces perfectly reinforces the emotions that the scenes are trying to convey. One of the tracks, Trisha's Lullaby, is this emotionally charged, sad song that's used during emotional scenes throughout the entire series. Sometimes it's played episode after episode, yet even with it being used consistently, it never loses its weight and effectiveness at selling these scenes. It perfectly complements this pseudo-steampunk fantasy world. Sincerely, it is a beautiful soundtrack. My issues with this show are less issues and honestly kind of just nitpicks. They don't spoil or ruin the experience, they just stuck out a little bit to me. Sometimes the resolutions can be a little too convenient. Scenes build up where the protagonists are in peril and you're left wondering, well, how are they gonna get out of this situation? And a little too often, characters will show up to get them out of it. Most of these scenes are awesome, yes, but I wish that in the later half specifically, the characters present in a scene were able to figure out a way to overcome these seemingly insurmountable challenges without the resolution being, well, now this guy's here so we can either escape or we can now fight this enemy off. At the end, the cast feels a little bit too big, where we're constantly cutting back and forth between multiple different groups, and where I'm more invested with the earlier cast, we keep cutting to other people that I'm not as invested in. I feel like the later half has some parts that feel like they drag a teensy bit, where I wasn't like annoyed or bored, but I was like, all right, come on. Like Ed being stuck in the pocket space, or the time in the north where the party split from the snowstorm. By no means would I say it's poorly paced, I just wished it moved a little bit faster in a few areas. In all fairness, most of the issues I have are for the later half of the series, which I don't think is worse than the first half, but personally, I just didn't resonate with it as strongly as the first half. Anime as a media form is something that most people are split about. As time has gone on, the medium has grown larger in popularity and become more accepted, but there are those who still have no interest in engaging with it. If you're someone who's maybe on the fence about these types of show, I think this show is a pretty good entry point. There are moments where the art style will change for comedic effect as they play into some gags. Like the characters will be rendered down into this really simple, dopey looking art style. Stuff like that I know can be a turnoff for some people, but I think the story, characters, and world is strong enough to get through those moments. Also, they're relatively quick, and they don't ruin the experience. In fact, it kind of helps to create a sense of brevity in these extremely tense situations. I have been very vague with this review, and that is because this is a show that you should experience blind. There's a couple of things that I knew going into it when I watched it, and it didn't sour my experience, but for the most part, I went into it blind. And I can't help but recommend people have a similar experience to that because it was awesome. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood gets a 9 out of 10. Go watch it if you haven't, and if you have, go watch it again. It's like the kids say these days, it's peak. If this review provided you any value at all, please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.